You're an hour ahead of me, right? Yeah, like, are we actually
An hour ahead of you, and I'm so much more tired than you are, and it's really not fair because technically I technically slept in an hour extra than you did, and you're all
technically,
bright-eyed
yes.
and bushy-tailed, and
I
I look like I got run over. So
We got to get you on that new schedule of waking up at 4:30 in the morning, man. And you'll be fine. Everything will be perfectly fine.
yeah,
We just, it'll take a
it'll
few
be so
months.
much better.
So much better. So much better. Well, actually, I
Well,
want to
hello
say first,
everybody.
yeah, welcome back, Sabaho. Hope you're doing well. Happy Friday, happy Friday, as we want to say it, or I want to say it at least. Nobody else is going to say it with me, but it is it's a little bit switched around. I don't know if you guys noticed. Last
Yes,
Friday, last Thursday show, I was in a hotel room, and
flip
then
it and reverse
now.
it.
And now, yeah, Juan got. He's like, if you're gonna do the hotel, I'm gonna do the hotel, but
I,
I'm also gonna add
I
a family
do
trip on
hotel.
top.
You're not the only one who gets to go to fancy
Schmancy hotels with.
Hampton Inn and Suites in rural New Mexico. So in your face.
I will sit corrected because I can't. I don't want to stand. Otherwise, you'll just see Goku. I do want to say, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Best of Our Week at a very special time. As you know, Juan Carlos is, or our buddy JC is on the road with the fam as opposed to where I am. So we're happy to be able to bring the show back to you. And quite a few of you guys were actually happy about the timing. So hopefully that works, and we'll see how it goes. I got a couple of tweets. Like some people were actually commenting. If I'm not mistaken, I think I want to say El Josa said, he loved the timing this time.
Oh, and we got Jimmy Fire and Grounded Tech in here. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
we've got a grip of things to talk about because I feel like this entire show is because I was on the road. I've been on the road for a little while. I feel like this entire show is going to be TK saying, "Well, this really cool thing happened in the tech news on the products that you currently own right now," and I'll be like, "Whoa, I had no idea because I was driving 80 miles an hour through Arizona. That sounds like something I'd really like to play with."
I always appreciate your travel because I typically don't travel that far. I mean, most of my trips are about within an hour or so from where I am.
Yeah.
But yours do end up having a little bit more, experimentation with, connectivity, internet connectivity, long drives. How are things connected?
Yeah.
Especially like right now, we're connected on. I think you said where you're running on the OnePlus 10 Pro, or is it?
Yeah, so I won't be holding up the OnePlus 10 Pro as a prop. I'm actually running this from the OnePlus
I
10
will
Pro,
hold the OnePlus
obviously.
10 Pro as a prop.
Thank you. See that's and look at TK's side of the screen, both for his face and for the gadgets, because it's going to be a way prettier view. I am currently on rural New Mexican 5G. I have the 5G indicator up on my OnePlus 10 Pro. So
Okay.
we'll see how that does. I running some speed tests. It was dramatically faster for the upload than going over the hotel Wi-Fi. So
Is it better than when you were there last time? Because I remember we did this
So,
kind of similarly.
yeah,
Yeah.
the one that we did last time was in Arizona, and right now a much smaller town in New Mexico is absolutely murking. And this is for T-Mobile. This isn't for
Yeah, yeah.
all carriers, obviously. I bet if I were on Verizon, it would flip. The
Yeah,
conversation
yeah.
would flip.
Well, I mean, speaking
But
of
in
Verizon,
T-Mobile, tiny little town in New Mexico, completely murking Flagstaff, Arizona. Like it's not even close. So we'll call it an upgrade. I think we're doing better.
I'm happy, and I think the footage, as you guys are seeing there, I see David Burns is in the chat with us. Matt just joined us as well. Farhan is in there as well.
Oh, Farhan and Purposely Gaming. Right on.
Yeah.
So
Dude.
I want to jump right in. We
Yeah.
because we don't have we're gonna have to keep our show a little bit more focused for both of us who like to ramble. But you jumped right in. I mean, as soon as I was in the room and I had just gotten my OnePlus 10 Pro set up, you were like, "Oh yeah, didn't you know it got a major update?" And I was
A
I
very
figured, like, that's
substantial update
probably
this morning.
the best place
Hold
to
on.
start.
So more specifically, optimizing the focusing on the slow motion portion. So I'm assuming on the 4K 120, the quality of taking photos in portrait mode. So that's going to be some improvements there. White balance in the front-facing camera. I think we can all appreciate
that's
that part. Fingerprint algorithm and improved success rate fingerprint unlocking. So I guess improvement in the unlocking on the fingerprint sensor. Gaming performance and fluency. So that actually is interesting. So they did some optimization on gaming. And then, of course, overall system stability. I like the fact that they specify what they're updating as opposed to general bug fixes, as Samsung would like to do it all the time. Everything falls under that blanket.
I got a major maintenance OTA. It was pretty large on the RedMagic 7 Pro. And
good.
There's no information. It's just, here is your OTA. Eat it. Enjoy it. So I'm glad that they actually try and detail what they're talking about.
So so this is actually very interesting too. So last week when we were talking, I was talking about the RedMagic 7, the standard model of the RedMagic 7, which I will say I've successfully sold. So unfortunately, I don't have that phone anymore to be able to showcase. So
no, I'm glad.
I was
there were some concerns about how the pricing on that was already kind of sliding.
It's a weird market. Like you can barely find it on Swappa, and if you find it on eBay, the pricing kind of varies a little bit over there. So for me, it was going for a couple of days, and then somebody reached out to me over from Twitter, and then the phone sold. So I'm glad that he found a new home. Yes. So Juan has the brand new shiny 7 Pro, Pro Edition version of the 7, and definitely a lot of nice. Well, so we saw a couple. I think we put out one video, or is it 2 videos already? On I saw the first video you did on the gaming.
I put out just a main performance test, and then I'm going to be putting out a sort of more general look at phone-ish performance. Obviously, it's still a crazy, hyper-focused gaming machine, but the second video is going to be going out this afternoon.
Perfect. Yeah. The RedMagic 7 and 7 Pro are very specific and very niche style devices that are, at least initially, from the 7, since I got a chance to play with the 7 and not the 7 Pro from my end, very not unthrottled, but basically, you get the full access of what the 8 Gen 1 is supposed to do, but you get the heat with it. So and you have to kind of work a little bit on the temperature.
Let's push pause on that, because I think one of the things that I'd like to do is to kind of circle back. There's been so much SoC news. We've got phones coming out with the Dimensity 8000. We just got an update, an OTA for the OnePlus 10 Pro.
For the 8 Gen,
and I think it's kind of worth breaking down the first batch of phones that came out with the Samsung fabricated 8 Gen 1 are all playing very different games with how they're managing performance. And I think it's pretty clear, BBK, because I couldn't leave my IQOO home alone.
I'm glad you brought that guy with you. Yeah.
But I mean, like, they're cousins, right? It's the OnePlus 10 Pro and the IQOO 9 Pro, and there's so many similarities and so many stark differences. But when it comes to the chipset, when it comes to the SoC, I feel they're both doing a very managed. There's a frame rate cap on the GPU for most games. I'm sure in the balanced mode, when I'm in the battery settings, that there's a lot of heavy application management that's going on. And then I also have it's a little further out of reach, but I also have the Moto. And the Moto is a little more like the RedMagic. The Moto kind of lets you make mistakes with your battery life. And so I think that's just been really... The whole spectrum has been really interesting. I feel like BBK is probably the most aggressive in managing your performance. Samsung is closer to that side of the spectrum. Then you get Moto, who's kind of smack dab in the middle. Like, when the phone throttles, it's because of legit thermal throttling, not because of software management. And then I think the RedMagic 7 is probably even a little crazier at the far end of the performance for that 165 hertz display.
So that was
I couldn't get the temperatures on the 7 Pro to hit the same that you did on the 7. I mean, it got super hot. It was uncomfortable to hold. I think my peak was 130 degrees Fahrenheit, but you beat me by like 10 degrees on the RedMagic 7.
All I can say is it takes practice. That's all I can say.
I don't have the touch. You got the touch
of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And no, bad 80s rock puns on the side. Yeah, no, and I don't want to do too much of that because I can't drink water over it. No, it obviously it is in certain situations, and it is the fact the combination of the 7 and 7 Pro, it's a weird step, right? So the 7 and the 7 Pro share a lot of similarities, but one thing the 7 Pro doesn't do is doesn't go to 165 frames per second. Nope. So it doesn't go to the full potential of what the 8 Gen 1 can do. For me, Yes, in my test, I was going at a 165. I wasn't capping the 120, so there could have been also those factors playing in the heat dissipation and in generation. The highest numbers I got was when I used the power separation feature. It wasn't even when I was running on power, because I think it does
power separation doesn't cool the phone.
No,
a lot of people are going to think like, oh, this is going to be something that helps the phone run
because it says that it does. Yeah,
it finds you extra performance overhead, and it runs your SoC even harder.
Even harder.
Everything about the RedMagic phones is, let's see if we can push it harder.
Well, so I in my experience, at least from my usage of the 7 Pro, and again, I've used the 6S Pro, the 6S, and the 6, did multiple generations. The cooler that RedMagic puts out, I feel like is an absolute needed accessory when you want to play the games at the full potential. I mean, Undead Horde at 120, or Dead Cells, or anything that runs, or even I think Real Racing also runs at 165. You're able to push the display and the device. Just understand the temperatures that are going to come with that. And I started to look at different coolers that are available. I saw a video from Linus a while back that they did a water cooling block. Essentially, it's a case with a pouch with like a bladder inside of it that runs water from another container to cool the phone's backing. And unfortunately, it's a discontinued product because I was going to buy one. I was going to buy one just to see, can I cool, like the RedMagic 7 with that. But unfortunately now, luckily somebody's going to be able to enjoy that more than I am. But you are enjoying the 7 Pro, so definitely, we're still in conversation.
So it's kind of crazy because every phone can play games, but not every phone is a gaming phone. And this, I didn't get to play with RedMagic last year, so I feel like this is probably a continuation of the strategy that they were on last year. But especially with the 8 Gen 1, and especially with the Samsung fabricated first generation 8 Gen 1 that seems to be a little less power efficient. Your performance per watt is a little out of whack. This to me feels the most like a gaming laptop in all of the gaming phones that I've tried, where if you want to do the phone stuff, you probably want to do that on the battery. And then you've got multiple options and solutions for the gaming stuff to play plugged in. And to me, that's very much like how I would game on a gaming laptop. If I fire up a really, balls to the wall kind of crazy, high-end, portable computer, I know my play sessions are going to be very short if I'm running it off of battery power.
Especially on battery,
And because of things like charge separation, it kind of makes sense where the harder you're going to run that phone, you really want to put fewer charge cycles on that battery. You don't want to keep nuking the battery and then plugging it in and running the phone even hotter and then, cycling it over and over and over again like that. So to me, it's the best of both worlds when you can, hey, I want to sit, I want to game, I want to play a little longer. Let me make sure I plug in here, hit the charge separation.
Exactly.
And I don't know about on the 7, but on the 7 Pro, I did an extended run. It was probably about 90 minutes of Undead Horde, and I saw 1% battery drop. The phone is even
at 120?
better at 120 hertz. It was
nice.
I had it in the controller, and it was painful to the touch when I took it out of the controller, because I wasn't going to hold the phone and use the screen that entire time. But that was even better behaved than using HS power control on a Sony, because Sony now, especially with 888s, like HS power control, you still keep draining. You just drain way slower.
It's a much slower pace. Yeah, exactly.
RedMagic, I don't, whatever they're doing to maintain, to sort of maintain the power, the charge separation feature is surprisingly sophisticated. It's such a unique feel. It really does feel like the gaming laptop of phones, even to the design of it being a bit more Mountain Dew fueled, with all like the chamfers and cutouts and the fan and the shoulder.
So yours has the dual inputs, right? It has an intake on the side and on the back as well, or is it just the one on the right and the left side?
There's only a single intake. It's only the intake on the back now.
Can you turn?
There's the light.
Oh, okay. So on the 7,
there's the intake. There is no side anymore.
Okay, so for the 7 Pro, that's what they did. For the 7, they allow 2 intakes, which I mistakenly said, I think a long time ago, that it was only one on the back. So there's the back and the side. But I feel like the 7's design is more a la the 6S Pro and the 6S. It's a similar design that we've seen, I think, sometime.
Yeah, even down to the camera arrangement on the back.
Absolutely, which I feel like where the 7 Pro maybe is benefiting from the structural upgrade. So there could be other things there causing the phone not to reach the temperatures that I was able to reach. My situation was running, again, with the entry-level 7, with the best case, the RAM and storage are features, but they're not necessarily attributing to the heat. Where I feel like the technology and the architecture of the 7 is more of what we saw last year with the 888. So that could have also attributed to the design. Maybe they just like, okay, we'll refresh the 7 from the 6 series, and then the 7 Pro will be the next generation.
I feel like that's part of it contributing to it. I think the other part of it is also some of the same issues that we see with Xiaomi.
Okay.
I only have a 120 hertz refresh rate display. The phone genuinely doesn't try. No apps are really going to try and drive beyond 120 hertz.
Yeah, it
and
won't
I
be
think when you have a 165 hertz display, it's kind of like Xiaomi. Xiaomi will try. When I'm playing Undead Horde on a Xiaomi, that thing will spike at like 90 frames per second. That game cannot sustain 90 frames per second, so then you crash to like 38. And then you spike back up to 70.
Once
and
it
then
cools down,
crash to 40. Just because the screen and the SoC is capable of it, they can't sustain it. I wonder if the phone is trying to hit 165, which genuinely, and I'm genuinely asking this for anyone in the chat.
Yeah.
If there are games you have played that can hit 165 hertz of any kind of sustained gameplay on Android, please let us know. Trying to find a list of games that really does that has been basically impossible. But
I know at least
really
one
feel like the
Real
7
Racing
Pro,
3 will go to 165, but it's not graphically intensive. Yeah, it's not graphically intensive to make the device. I mean, it's kind of like playing Dead Cells, right?
The only thing I can think of, like I've got a solitaire app that I think if I let the screen go completely unchecked,
you need
165.
165. Yeah, I think you need 165.
But that's it. I think the 7 is the phone is trying to do what you're asking it to do. You told the phone, I want the screen to operate at 165 hertz, so it's gonna try. And I think it actually ends up running the 7 harder than the 7 Pro, because the 7 Pro is never gonna try driving a game to a higher frame rate than what the screen can support.
And I think that's what I appreciate.
Farhan has exactly. Sorry, just real quick. Farhan has exactly the right comment there. Heat suppression should be a mandatory feature for flagship and upper mid-range phones. Basically, I think every phone should have a charge separation feature, especially entry-level and mid-ranger phones, where we can be confident that those consumers will like holding on to their devices as communication gadgets. Give them extra battery life, longevity, also.
And make sure, because one of the things that I found in my testing, at least, the battery drain was tremendous, but it was in a dual factor, right? So for me, yes, the phone gets hotter, but the phone's drawing a lot more power. And then when I started to use the cooler, now the cooler has a function of running off the phone, which means the battery now, which is slightly smaller than what the 7 Pro has at 4,500 milliampere, is not only powering an 8 Gen 1 and the entire system and the fan that is built in, but it's running a dual external fan that is going to try to cool the phone on the outside. So I was able to seriously
nuking your battery.
Absolutely. Oh my God. And the temperatures were like crazy, although the cooler was there to counteract the temperatures. Long story short, I'm sure you guys will definitely check out.
That's what's so crazy about RedMagic. As soon as you give it cooling, it's like, oh, I guess I can run this even hotter.
Yeah. Well, no, but that's what it truly is the little. Well, it's not the phone that could, because it always wants to do what you tell it. If I told it to run at 120, if I told it to run Dead Cells and without all of the, all of the high graphics and everything, it will run much cooler, and the cooler will be even able to drop it even. Yeah, exactly. The purpose of what I did in my video wasn't to showcase that the phone couldn't handle itself, that it was too hot. It was more about that it could hang in there and not, throttle you down and not shut down, not crash. And there are ways for you to manage the temperatures. I was able to get it to an acceptable temperature, in my opinion, with the cooler, but it was externally connected. So at the end of the day,
Oh no, I'm sorry. I just got something stuck in my throat. I wasn't
No.
rudely interrupting you.
Rudely.
My apology.
Um,
TK, I would like to say something.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, for me, it was an enjoyable gaming experience. So, out of everything that most devices that I've seen this year, this phone surprised me and outperformed what I was expecting it. It does run warm and hot if you don't try to manage
Sure.
it, and I feel like it does benefit from a cooler. Specifically, at least the one I had, which I'm trying to find on their website. It seems like they don't carry the dual coolers anymore. They only carry the one cooler that goes on the back that maybe will fit better.
Yeah, the major design change is adding a rear facing intake for airflow. So those dual coolers, like you were saying, those dual coolers might end up actually blocking part of the airflow.
It was a weird thing. I had to figure out exactly slightly shift. I mean, I couldn't put it right where I wanted it because it was blocking the intake, and I was like, that's like defeating the purpose, right?
For Jimmy Fire Dragon asking just how good is the cooling on the RedMagic, I have not played with the external cooler. So what TK's talking about is there's an additional cooler that clamps to the back and adds like an extra fan that really does.
I
pull
don't know
heat
where mine
off
is.
the
I put it away.
back plate of the phone. So I've only played with the 7 Pro using the built-in internal fan. It's not even that the RedMagic can do things that other phones can't do. The RedMagic is easily capable of driving similar games to higher resolution and higher frame rates than what you can get on a Nintendo Switch. So when we're talking about a game like Undead Horde, it's a cute little arcadey twin stick unit management game. It's kind of a torture test for phones because it's not the most graphically beautiful, but you have tiny little minions that you control all over your screen. It's a little like arcade strategy. On normal phones, it's actually kind of rare to see sustained frame rates above the high 40s. But a Nintendo Switch has a 720p screen and can kind of drive that game to around 60 frames per second. I've never seen Undead Horde play mobile sustained above 60. And on a RedMagic, it's consistently driving it over 100 frames per second. I mean, the first, I would say 45 minutes of gameplay, I was pegged at 120. This is twice the frame rate of what a Nintendo Switch can deliver. And the phone is going to get uncomfortably warm, but you asked it to do it, and the phone is going to do it. And it's all just through the little built-in fan. I didn't have anything additional cooling the phone down. So it's that level of performance where most gaming experiences, like a Nintendo Switch style gaming experience, if you kick this thing down to 60 frames per second, you have significant performance overhead. You're not really driving the phone that hard on most games at 60 FPS.
Oh, yeah.
So many games that really struggle on other premium tier devices to maintain 60, this is the phone that's going to push you to 90 or 120. I think the only game that I really ran into a hard block, and it's totally buggy, so part of this is that the game isn't well optimized. Alien Isolation is almost hard frame per second capped on most phones at 30. And even though it was busted, you couldn't really play it. The RedMagic was pushing it to 45. I mean, a 50% frame rate improvement on a game like Alien Isolation is incredibly intense, especially that it's the same SoC as any other premium tier phone.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the biggest thing that RedMagic has been known for, right? It's the
It's
giving
exotic,
you the
but
it's
really
exotic.
works.
Oh yeah, no, and it's for the lack of a better word, balls to the wall on this one. You just get what you want and you run it the way you want to run it, and you just have to understand. I compared it to a PC, right? 'Cause for me, this is what anybody that runs a gaming PC or a gaming laptop already knows about the heat that comes with it, right? We've accepted those terms a long time ago, and there's a reason why gaming laptops have these funky intake and outtake and cooling systems that blow air and these weird shape honeycomb patterns at the bottom of them. It's not just aesthetics. It's also because of airflow, right? The same thing with my PC behind me. I have, 12 fans running in that thing to keep the airflow running. I mean, no, seriously, I have 3 fans at the top, 3 fans on the front, 2 fans on the bottom, and 1 giant fan on the back, as well as a secondary one, to kind of keep the air running through. because I have a 3080 Ti, which is again a massive heat generator, and the cooler that stock one doesn't generate enough air to cool it. So what I'm trying to shoot for is, we need to think of RedMagic and gaming phones in that aspect. You're getting the performance you're asking for, but you also need to understand the management. So I think like the controller you were talking about is a really good way to manage it. You separate your hands from the phone and allow it to run its own cooling with the passive, with the airflow that it does. It does seem like at least the 7 Pro has better mechanics. So hopefully we'll see the 7S or the 7, whatever the S series is. Typically they do release 2 versions. Hopefully the 7 will benefit from that.
This kind of gets us back because I want to circle back. We started talking about the OnePlus 10 Pro. And I've been using it here on this road trip, and it's really been a joy. It's such a solid phone.
It is.
But when we start talking,
I doubled my storage, by the way. I was able to do that.
Oh, wait a minute.
I figured how to double my.
I know what the punchline to this joke is going to be. Let's see. If you want twice the storage, just buy 2 OnePlus 10 Pros.
I am running.
You're such a nerd. I love it.
256, 16 gigs of RAM, all the storage you want,
Boom.
and we get, of course, the custom edition Boston Marathon happening on Monday. If you guys are fans, please make sure check it out. I think David Burns were commented on the video as well. He ran the marathon in 2014. My hat's off to you, sir. So I appreciate your.
So this is kind of the transition. I want to start with gaming, and then we can talk about some of the other phone things, because we've got some folks in here that are watching on a OnePlus 10 Pro. I've been very encouraged that the response to this phone hasn't been as dire as tech reviewers are making this thing out to be. Well, it's a OnePlus, and they betrayed us, so what are you going to do? Because I feel like a lot of the early reviews have just been cut and paste from, like, the OnePlus 8 Pro. They just changed the name in the review. So
I like that.
When folks are looking at things like the gaming performance, there are precious few games that OnePlus will let you play above 60. I feel that's the right frame cap. Most of the games that I'm playing on Android play beautifully at around 60 frames per second. I get spoiled on a RedMagic when I can bump it higher, but we're in that sweet spot where high resolution display, we've got a fluid frame rate, and the phone can just hang at that frame rate for most of those games. The only time I get a little twitchy about it are on games that I like having just a bit more of that kind of precision mechanic. A game like Dead Cells, you can bump it up to 90 frames per second. That helps. I mean, it really does help the gameplay if you can keep it fluid at a higher rate. But
once you go 120, it's a stark shift to go back to play on a phone that does 60, man. Because I don't have the RedMagic 7, right? So I fired it up on my OnePlus, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I see how it is. It doesn't feel bad. It just feels like it's could have been better.
But this is, I think, what's so critical is with this kind of hardware. We're talking Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. We're talking an SoC that at peak load is drawing like 14 watts of power. That's like ultrabook laptop, entry ultrabook laptop, low power PC kind of a range. If you give it some kind of limitation, and I know it's been a bummer when we talk about performance throttling, but a OnePlus 10 Pro isn't gonna blink at most gaming experiences at 60 frames per second. It's gonna run significantly cooler to the touch than if you bump it above 60 frames per second.
Well, and more consistent, which I really appreciate.
Nuke your battery.
It is really trying to give you a very good, solid. It almost reminds me a little bit of the V60, what the V60 was trying to do with the consistent frame rate across the entire UI elements, from the camera to the system.
60 hertz display.
No, absolutely. But it wasn't trying to play the game of, like 30 frames here, 60 frames, 45, like multiple. Yeah. LG did a really good job, and I feel like, although I will say that I enjoyed playing the 120, I realized though that there is a limit of how long I can play it on the RedMagic 7, because at some point my finger couldn't stay on the display to play the game, so it becomes conducive of actually getting a good gaming experience. I would have much rather, and I did try it also at 90 frames per second, and it was cooler, and 60 would be even cooler, where you're still able to get...
On the RedMagic, I tend to float 60 and 90, except for a couple of games that I really do like, that when they kick them up to 120.
And it helps with the battery life as well,
I appreciate being able to tell my phone what to do. And I kind of wish I had that on the OnePlus. I wish I could tell OnePlus, hey,
we need
dead cells is not heavy lifting. Give me 90 frames per second in dead cells. And the OnePlus would go, okay, you're going to nuke your battery faster. And I'll go, thanks, OnePlus. I know. And I want that. I would really appreciate having that because like on the screen settings on the RedMagic, it's 120, 90, 60. There isn't even a variable AI mode. It's like what screen, that's what we're going to do. And I kind of feel that's our best solution is as long as the user knows what they're doing. And it's buried deep in the battery settings where average people who buy $1,000 phones and never do anything with them that don't
never mention that's what drives me crazy. Yeah
right. But again, I want to I wish I had just a few toggles like that without having to run an app with an ADB command to unlock additional screen settings. I don't want that. I want it in the phone. I go into display, I go into advanced, and I say, this game specifically, give me 90 frames per second, and then the phone goes cool. But genuinely, the rest of the phone performance has been much better behaved than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
It seems like OnePlus and BBK in general, they have a really good bead on everything that they get out of the 8 Gen 1. And I have to believe they're looking at the CPU going, all right, we got to hold that back. But the additional AI capabilities, the low light photography, I don't even have the update that TK was talking about. I don't even have that yet. And they're already learning from the Oppo and from the Vivo line. Like the night mode on the OnePlus 10 Pro got about 50% faster than the OnePlus 9 Pro. Like those little lifestyle improvements where you pick up a Samsung and it still feels like a Galaxy S20, the OnePlus 10 Pro is finding a few areas where they're able to kind of drive.
While you're doing that, I'm actually going to show you guys the new fingerprint sensor unlock. This thing is crazy.
Oh yeah, let's do it. So if you had a OnePlus 9 Pro, absolutely not worth the upgrade. I really don't feel this is a 1-year upgrade, flip the phone. Little things like the ultra wide camera, I might annoy you if you have the OnePlus 9 Pro. You can't switch from 4K 60 back and forth while you're shooting video anymore because the sensors are too different. But that is so clean. For an optical sensor, that's really good.
Dude, that is like not even... That is... I'm barely... I mean, you know what I'm saying? This is not a... Like, seriously. This is fast.
Yeah, that's like almost ultrasonic good right there.
I think what happened is they saw my video on the IQOO, and I said that the IQOO was faster, and said OnePlus, like, hold my beer, my friend. I can show you what we could do here. You say IQOO, I say OnePlus. This is one. Okay, so one of the things I fell in love with the IQOO, not that I wanted to kind of sideline the conversation, was how crazy the fingerprint sensor is on that phone. It seriously is a lightning fast, barely, if you like swing by the fingerprint sensor, is like, hey, you're there, unlock. It is super buttery smooth, but yes, the 9 Pro, seriously, the unlocking fingerprint sensor right now is like...
Now I need to run this update now. I'm very Twitter page about that. So my problem is, I don't know what's up with my thumbs, but if I scan one thumb and it works great for one thumb, it almost never works well. These optical scanners.
Yeah.
Almost never works well on my other thumb. And the thing I loved about the IQOO was this ultrasonic is the first time I felt like it scanned equally good for both phones, and the sensor size is so large that I'm not thinking about where I have to put my thumb. But for an optical sensor, this is a huge update. I'm tempted to do a little reel of saying how many times can I unlock this in 10 seconds, just a homage to a friend of mine that he did a video on a Xiaomi saying Xiaomi is the only one. I think OnePlus is here to play. Yeah, I mean, like, it seems to be animation speed is the only thing that's holding us back.
Oh yeah, no.
Fingerprint sensors. Like, I can't run a Moto as fast as I could run a Xiaomi, but I got real close. So
that's
Moto good for an optical.
But you know, the weird thing is also Xiaomi does it very well, even on their Redmi line. It's not just specific to Xiaomi's their own brand, right?
My fastest run yet is on a Poco.
Even better. No, but it's one of those, like, you kind of appreciate the technology. And one of the things don't get me wrong, I love fingerprint sensors that are in display, and I really appreciate the convenience of having it here. The true for me is a mounted fingerprint sensor is much, much more functional for me, because then I don't have to keep smudging my finger all over. Or a rear mounted fingerprint sensor. Those are typically my favorite, because those are the general, like, natural placement. OnePlus this year raised the fingerprint sensor from where it was on the 9 Pro. That was one thing that I appreciated. It was a little too low.
Where the 8 Pro was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think in the 9 Pro, for some reason, they felt like it should be lower. Like, no, you want some space, and this is the right spot. But I wanted to say the shortcut. If you guys have never used this on your OnePlus, or I don't think Samsung does it, but OnePlus, IQOO, and I think even BBK brand phones definitely do it. They have a long press shortcut to launch other applications on your phone, right? You can hold it. OnePlus requires you to hold the fingerprint sensor, unlock, and keep your finger on the screen for it to launch a 5 shortcut functionality. IQOO does it so much better. It adds a separate fingerprint reading section because it's such a big read sensor. It's able to give you, like, it's almost like you have 3 different fingerprint sensors. I had Instagram and Facebook in my demo, and I can unlock the phone by putting my finger on Instagram, and that's where the sensor is. It's that big of a presence. So there's pluses and minuses, but I feel like IQOO for sure is driving to give you a more, I feel like, more luxurious. I don't want to say OnePlus isn't luxurious. Like, OnePlus is consistent, and they've done their job very well over the years, and they consistently upgrade. IQOO is just still hitting higher. It's hitting closer to Vivo, in my opinion, than where we are. I mean, obviously it is, but it's closer.
Actually,
it's slightly
I was
higher.
Saying now, Vivo in general, the IQOO label, I know I got comments, was like, well, that's a budget, like a flagship killer wannabe. Vivo in general, once the price climbs to a certain tier, Vivo seems to be like a skunk works for BBK. They can test out some of the radical technologies, and then it seems like Vivo is doing it first, unless it's something crazy like microscope mode on an Oppo Find. But it seems like if you want to be at the bleeding edge of what BBK has in their parts bin, Vivo is the way to go.
Because again, for camera performance,
and not just camera performance, but general lifestyle smartphone use. The fingerprint sensor is such a big deal. How you interact with your phone and the ergonomics of how you handle it. And I've always been cranky about in-display, because I think it's a poorer solution to a tactile landmark for something that your fingers should interact with. It's the same reason why I get cranky about trying to operate cars through dashboard touchscreens. Not to besmirch your Tesla, but I feel there's an ergonomic and tactile and a visual attention that goes into how we operate our electronics.
That was a low blow, by the way. That was a very low blow. My baby's in the shop for the last few days, so I've been not to make it too long, but at some point about 2 months ago, after we came back from Vegas, the car charging capacity started to diminish. Typically, what you see to a battery on a phone after a couple of years or maybe 3 years of usage. But my car showed all of that in not even a year, because I just turned a year at the end of March. So my capacity was supposed to be 356 miles, and now I'm getting around 300 as maximum. So I lost quite a bit. So I've called them. We've done a whole bunch of things. So I dropped it off Monday morning and Tuesday morning, and I was supposed to get it back. Was it yesterday? And then now it looks like hopefully tomorrow. So we'll see.
Gotcha.
I don't know what it is. It shouldn't have been in this situation. They're rated to lose about, I think they said 10% range at 200,000 miles, and I don't even have 10,000 yet.
Yeah, you're not hitting.
I don't drive as much.
You drive a lot. You're not hitting it yet.
No. Well, surprisingly not. I mean, this is the first time I've ever owned a car that I have less than 10,000 on it the first year. I typically am closer to 20,000. But, working from home and a whole bunch of things like that.
Pandemic.
Yay! No. But yeah, no. I think you're right. The tactile functionality, it took me a while to get used to with a car like that. And it is very different for me because when I jump into my wife's car, it's like I have to relearn and readjust to kind of like I walk away from my wife's car and not shutting off the car and not locking the door because I'm used to these things.
But what I mean for a phone is that there are different philosophies. And again, if you're coming at this like, but that's not how I use my phone, I just need you to listen to people that are different than you. There are some people that that absolutely need the lock screen as their at a glance, just get a lay of the land, what's going on in my digital life. I'm a person who always has a smartwatch. This is my gatekeeper. So when I pick up a phone, I only want to pick up a phone with purpose. I'm never just casually looking at my phone to see what's going on with my notifications because I already know what's going on with my notifications. And so I have the bad habit of, if I pick this up and I start doing things on it, it's very easy for me to go down rabbit holes, to get distracted, to forget what it was that I was trying to do. So I'm purposely making an effort to specifically use devices for the things I need in that moment. So for me, a slower unlocking experience is just every microsecond more time for me to get distracted by something else. And I really genuinely believe in my brain. That is the window of attention that I might have in that moment. So if it takes me 3 pulses on an in-display fingerprint sensor before I can really look at what's going on my phone, my brain might already be going off on a tangent.
No,
so for me,
I agree.
It's if I'm pulling the phone out of my pocket, the phone should be unlocked and ready here, not here. It should be operational before my eyes have even hit the screen. And most in-display fingerprint sensors can't as casually attain that nearly as well as a really good power button fingerprint sensor, a rear fingerprint sensor, or the IQOO, where I don't need to be so precious about where I put my thumb, even with really good muscle memory. Also, I'm a gadget reviewer, so my muscle memory is effed with every couple of weeks. The IQOO, I never needed to train my hands how to hold it to unlock it, because as soon as the thumb brushes the screen anywhere in the bottom third, the phone is unlocked. It's open, it's ready to go. So that to me is the critical usage difference. Is if you're the type of person who relies on your lock screen to replace the smartwatch functionality, then sure, I get it. You're one of those people that is looking at the screen first and you're interacting with notifications and then you're already paying attention to it to unlock it. Cool, but that's not the kind of interaction that I want. I want an interaction that is less managed visually and is more managed tactile.
Absolutely. And Dan kind of points out the same thing. It's like my Xperia is unlocked before it leaves my pocket, as it should be.
Exactly.
Because that's how you do
thing.
it.
You know, like it's why like my grandmother, we might need to get her a new phone. She's on an old iPhone 8, and you're like, I know it's not the bestest phone, but she's so familiar, and her hands are so used to her iPhone 8. It doesn't make any sense to try and get her on Face Unlock. We're gonna get her an iPhone SE. You know, like it's not really gonna be an upgrade. It's gonna be a lateral move just so that she has a newer phone with like a new battery again.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. There's no point in making her relearn how to use her phone and swiping versus the beauty of just pushing a button for her home. It doesn't. We're not really making things better. We're just changing how you do things, and it looks nifty, but it's not an improvement. It's just a lateral move.
It's a very, especially on iPhones, ever since the loss of the fingerprint sensor, I think the Touch ID has been, they perfected Touch ID in the way that just everybody wanted to kind of use it, and then they moved away from it. But then at least I'm kind of happy to see that it still somewhat exists, in 2022 on an Apple device. The main thing that I appreciate about the IQOO is the camera performance. I still very much I'm in love with the X70 Pro Plus. That to me is still the epitome. And I don't want to take anything from any other camera. I'm not saying other cameras are trash. What I'm saying is by just the sheer value of trying so many phones in 2021 or in previous years, and it's still at the beginning of 2022, I still can go back and look at the images that I took from the X70 Pro Plus. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
it was such an integral factor of how I was able to cover an entire event, gunning it and releasing reels and basically shorts and so on. To me, that saved me so much time, and it made it much less stressful than it could have been.
But isn't that what's kind of exciting is you're describing this right now, and to me this has been the major soapbox that I kind of need to keep beating this drum and yelling about this. You're defining a specific kind of use. If someone came to me and said, like Bionic Scoop is in the chat right now, and he wants
he loves his EV, by the way.
smartphone kind of camera experience. I'd really like to see what Scoop can do on a Sony, because Scoop is a very talented photographer, and his education in photography is going to line up really well with the phone that operates the most like a camera. I really like the Vivo because it's kind of the best of all worlds, and it's really messy. It reminds me a lot of the golden age of LG. If you want just a point and shoot auto mode, it does the funky HDR and stuff. If you want like really intense manual modes, it does that well too, and it's got all different kinds of filters and things to play with. I mean, it's a smorgasbord of different cameras to play with. And then if I want something that's, I think, going to be sort of a more streamlined point and shoot, but with some really great video, that's where the OnePlus 10 Pro has really been impressing. So, like, I think a Pixel 6 Pro is better for stills, but once you start shooting 4K 120 frame per second video off of a OnePlus in that beautiful auto mode, and you stretch that out for 1/4 slow motion, like, I mean, I've been back shooting tons of videos of Lex. So we went to Huntington Gardens, literally like days
I
after
saw.
you
So
did.
no, I know, because I saw you like talking about it. I was like, dude, we should have like no,
Yeah.
No,
I didn't even. It didn't even click to me that that's where you went. Like,
we bought a
"Yeah, I'm
membership.
gonna
No,
go."
this is how much I'm planning on going. We bought a membership for this year.
Got the membership.
So we got the membership.
So
We're going.
I shot. There's the kids play park, and I shot it all on the one. I had 3 phones in my pocket, and the only phone that made sense to run around and follow Lex was the OnePlus 10 Pro.
Yep.
Because I shot her 4K 120. I stretched out all the footage. It's beautiful. She's like sunlit, running through these fields, super slow motion. I've got Cat Stevens. So folk rock is backing her up, and it's all about the longing of growing up and missing his childhood. And there she is, like crawling through tunnels, but it's in this and her hair is like blowing in the wind. I can't do that on a Samsung. I can't do that on an iPhone. I can't do that on any other phone. I can do that on a Sony, and I can do that on a OnePlus. And if you haven't played with those kinds of features, then you really haven't given those cameras a fair shot. And I'm definitely spoiled because I can reach for a Vivo for amazing photography and great video. I can reach for a Sony for amazing photography and exacting detailed manual modes. I can reach for a OnePlus. I definitely have a different perspective on this kind of stuff, but depending on what you like to do, I don't know. I mean, I feel like tech reviewers are trying to find other nice things to say about OnePlus this year so that they can still say OnePlus is the loser. And instead of trying to find, there's something unique about this phone, and if that sounds like something you would enjoy, you genuinely can't get it anywhere else. You need DeX, you need a Samsung. If you're willing to play with Ready 4, you can get a Moto. You want the most camera-like phone, you need to get a Sony. If you want some of the prettiest video, it might not be an iPhone, depending on what you like to shoot. And these differences, these nuances matter so much when you really get to play with them.
One of the main reasons why I really want to see Vivo come, or at least become more available in other markets specifically, because seriously, that phone, if you didn't take it back, would have been to this day the phone I take all of my B-roll content with. I'm shooting and producing all of my stuff because it has so much storage. It has a lot of functionality. So to Aditya's comment, a little bit of a Vivo shell at this point on my end. I'm just a very big fan of what they represent, and I'm also very lucky because you keep getting all the phones, so I get to get my hands on them and get a chance to test them out. So, yeah, keep doing what you're doing, my friend, because it's working.
I mean,
It's
again,
where
I've been very hashtag blessed.
yes,
Just the
no,
folks at Vivo have been reaching out, and unfortunately, I'm probably not going to get a chance to play with the Chinese specific regional stuff. So I really wanted to play with like the Vivo,
the tablet.
Fold and their
Yeah,
and their
no.
new tablet, and
Dang it, I put mine on.
and
Mine is on the
unfortunately,
shelf. Yeah.
until we hear any news about those getting an international release, I probably won't get to play with those. But having used the IQOO and the X70s, again, it's such a unique flavor, and that's the one thing I think I could express more, because I was lurking in Eric's stream, Easy Computer Solutions, and he had a stream last week just talking about like why do we keep saying phones, or I know it was this Wednesday, talking about why do we keep saying phones are boring, and I think the whole commodity of a communications device in your pocket is super mature. You don't need to push boundaries there, but I don't think consumers are well educated on the different nuances. So unfortunately, for most consumers, if we're going to play the average consumer game, they're radically overspending for what they're really using. And if they're gonna spend that much, there are some brilliant things they could be doing instead with their phones instead of going to a laptop or a desktop. And if they don't know what those things are, then we're really not doing our job as techies. If we're only reviewing the phone, telling them about the things that they're already doing on their phone, then we're just making commercials. We're not making reviews. And that makes me sad, like it's exciting to get the same experience that you had on your old phone for a third the price. That's exciting.
That's the exciting factor.
Excited, like
Yep.
your phone is going to do the same things it always did, and it's still probably going to be a better camera than what you had before, and you're going to spend $350, not $900.
Yep.
People light up about stuff like that, and we can't diminish. You're going to get better battery life. You're probably still going to have a headphone jack. Like, those things are high concept for someone's daily use. If they want more compute power, I can show them. You're going to edit videos. You're going to play these games. You're going to replace your laptop. It might have a desktop mode. You're going to do all this stuff, and your phone is just going to take it to this crazy extreme level. If you want to do that, now you've got a good reason to start shopping above $600.
Yep.
That to me becomes the missing X factor in so many of these conversations. The second I see someone saying like, "Oh, OnePlus, those cameras," that person's an idiot. They're terrible at photography, and they didn't really shoot on the phone, because what I'm doing on this phone is high level. It doesn't have the same capabilities as a Sony, and yet I'm still doing high level.
Absolutely. No. And we took with us so speaking of last week when we were at Disney with the family, I took the 10 Pro with me to Disney because I wanted to kind of experience, seeing some of the, because it's very colorful. There's a lot of different, aspects. There's a lot of shadow areas. It was a very hot day. So a lot of times we were in and out of the sun.
Oh, the hard lighting, especially at Disneyland, because there's so little shade.
Exactly. In Revenge of the the Resistance. There was I had a different name in my mind. There's that one part where you walk out into the bay where there is like I want to say almost like 60 different stormtroopers sitting in there. Yeah. That I took that shot. I was like, nice. That was like a surreal. First time going on that ride. Never been. We missed it last time we were there because we passed on the other side. So going through that and seeing that impact and feeling like you're in the Star Wars universe, I was like, whoa. I was like, crap, I'm here. I'm like, this was like I geeked out to so much level. My wife was like, what's wrong with you? I said, you don't understand where we are. We are. I mean, we're about to get killed by them, but it's really exciting.
When we got Lex out there before the pandemic, because she had just seen A New Hope. And I have that one photo. I've shown you the photo. I haven't posted it publicly. It's the moment just as the Millennium Falcon is coming back in at the end of the film, and she's just got her hand to her face, and her mouth is open. And immediately after I shot that photo, there's 4-year-old Lex going, "Han came back! Han came back!" She was so into it. So we walk into that Disney area, and they have a life-size Millennium Falcon, and there's 4-year-old Lex toddling right up to it. Lamenial Falcon, Lamenial Falcon.
Oh my God, you remind me of Biscotti.
It's so magic. I mean, I'm even wearing the shirt.
I know.
Awesome.
Total non-intentionally segued, but it could be the reason why I thought of it. Slow,
Sure.
right there.
It gets in there, man. You can't let it go.
It is.
I'm not even the biggest Star Wars fan, and that kind of stuff. That's where Star Wars is magical.
Yes, and if you do have the opportunity, or you happen to live in the LA area, definitely, if you have the opportunity to go to Disney, that's the big factor for me, the big awe moment. Just again, spending the day with the family, kicking it. I mean, it was extremely hot, but it was still fun because we came back later. We left around the peak of the heat around 4, and then we came back again about 8 o'clock after I was able to eat, and we stayed till like midnight. So we got a chance to experience both day and night Disney, and it's very nice. It is something, but it also is very nice because I'm able to flex the camera capabilities on the 10 Pro. Shooting in at night, not just during the day, is also a big factor of what your system or your device can do. The one thing I wanted to mention, and which was the reason why I was showing that phone, is that OnePlus sent out to me the OnePlus 10 Pro. This is the Boston Marathon Special Edition with the unicorn. So to me, it was like I got the box and I was like, what? There is, and it comes with this really, really nice, snazzy case made by OtterBox, which you can't even buy OtterBox cases, but apparently this is the way to get it. And I now have both colors. I finally have both colors of the OnePlus 10 Pro. I got the midnight,
that's awesome.
Which actually, believe me or not, dude, it actually looks nice. And kudos to Sony for the focusing level today. Like, really good Sony.
Really glad. Yeah, Sony's been nailing it. I really want to kind of check one out in person, like maybe the next time we get to hang out. But I was just really happy that I was able to get the aqua, because usually they just send me like black, and you're like, okay, cool, yeah, it's great. I love playing with the phone. I wish I had the color one, and for once, like they actually hooked me up with the other color. So
and I absolutely I'm still rocking that one on my main in the main case. But for me, it's like it has a little bit of more of a sparkle when it goes with the volcanic black, they're calling it. So all I have to say is Sigma does much better focusing. It's much faster. Like it's
good. The Sigma lenses are really good.
I got it at 1.4, man. I'm just setting it. Everything is doesn't exist.
We should probably start wrapping up. But I've got this afternoon. I'm going to be on the road, so I'm going to have to try and put it together. Second video on the RedMagic, and then I might not be able to pull off my podcast this morning on this Monday, depending on travel. So if I can't, I'm going to have another video out looking at the Motorola. So the Motorola Edge Plus. That might just end up being a Monday morning premiere. And then you're doing your show. Well, first of all, are you getting anything out today, or are you just going to be doing
I wanted to get something out today. Unfortunately, one of the reasons why the show came out a little bit early, I have a lot of conflicting schedules today with day job stuff. So I'm shooting for tomorrow morning the MateBook E video that I was hoping to send out. So that's going to be coming out.
That's right.
So that's coming out this week. And then I got an accessory. I got an accessory for the Find X5 Pro that I want to do a video on next week that I think would be very exciting. So that's going to be my intro for the beginning of the week. A little bit.
Good.
I hope it shows up on time. I'm hoping it's not delayed. But the biggest thing for me to do this weekend, I'm hoping, is that they do give me back my car tomorrow. It's scheduled for tomorrow morning at around 10. So as soon as I'm done with the show, I'll be, hopefully driving over and trying to pick up the car. And then we'll see how it goes. They're not very communicative, so they're not explaining to me what's going on. They took all my inputs and all the pictures and stuff that I shared with them. But they're not, giving me a lot of info. So I'm hoping tomorrow morning we'll find out. So yeah, that's probably
fingers crossed for you, buddy. I know how much you love that car. So.
Oh, dude, we go everywhere in it now. Ever since it's been our car, like we travel with it. Vegas, San Francisco, and San Diego, or even just going to Anaheim just for Disney stuff. It's a fun car. It's a nice car. It's not super roomy, but it's big enough for us as a small family, and it works out great. Right. And Omar loves it. He got into the car, my wife's car, on Wednesday or Tuesday, and then on the way back, he's like, "Hey, how come we're not in the Tesla?" I'm like, "You didn't realize you got in the wrong car." And he's like in such auto mode thing. I'm like, okay. So he misses the car. Like,
Where's
this
the
is
whip?
it. Yeah. Why am I not being snapped back into my seat every time we accelerate?
That's awesome.
It is.
Well, we've got tons of really fun stuff coming up.
Yep.
Just the other rundown, and I want us to start doing a better job of this, which is on me. Who's streaming tonight? I believe that's LaShawn. So Holler at Your Boy should be streaming tonight, I believe. You're still doing? Are you still
tomorrow
doing your
morning?
show
Yeah,
Saturday?
tomorrow morning 9 a.m. Pacific. So tomorrow I'm back.
Pretty
Yeah,
sure
because I skipped
that
last
means
Saturday.
El Jefe should be on
10,
on
isn't he?
Sundays.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'll have his on Sundays, and then we have, what's it called? Sam and Joe are also doing Sundays as well.
Oh, that's right. Sam and Joe are back. That's right. So keep an eye out for Sam. Monday I will try like heck to get an SGG QA off the ground, but if not, I'll still do some kind of a video or premiere. Tuesday should be Kimmy, that's Gadget Goddess. Wednesday is Eric, Easy Computer Solutions. Thursday is Mike and Ike. So I don't know if Tech King Mike is back yet. I hope he is for this week, but if he's not, I think... Actually, now that I say that, I don't know if Mike or Ike are going to be streaming, but look out for both of their channels, Ike's Tech Talk, Tech King Mike, and then us again, hopefully next Thursday. So it's an entire week, like literally every day of the week. You've got some of the hardest working tech reviewers putting together live streams and videos and reviews. So this should be a really good time to start catching up on some of the longer term Samsung videos. I'm going to be getting another Pixel 6 Pro video out. Moto's out there, Vivo's out there, OnePlus is out there. The new Redmis are out there. They look crazy too. So there's some really fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the Redmi line actually, surprisingly for the beginning of the year, is quite extensive. And you can definitely find something in that range of what would fit your budget and feature set that you're looking for. So it's definitely very, let's just say this, it is not missing anything, and wouldn't necessarily call it boring. I'm just saying you need to find the right phone that excites you. That's really I think that's the best way to say it. It's not boring because...
I'll be the snarky git. Tech is actually kind of rad right now, and if you think it's boring, it's probably because you're a boring person, and we don't have to be friends. That's fine. But, maybe be better, and then you will have more fun with your cool technology.
Well,
It's just a thought.
On that note of being better, I will say, I hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Rest of the week, obviously, the weekend's coming up, and I hope you do well and stay well.
Sure.
I wish you and the family a good time. With the rest of the family, I'm assuming you guys have extended family. I know you go to New Mexico quite a bit yearly. So with that being said. Thank you very much for everybody for hanging out with us. We appreciate you guys kicking it with us on this Friday morning. We'll be back next week, hopefully on the regular time, Thursday evening, for the best of our week. And as Juan mentioned it as well, with the show tomorrow and, of course, the premiere hopefully on Monday morning, if depending on his schedule. We'll see you guys next week for another episode of the best of our week. Take care. Thank you very much. We'll see you then. Bye-bye for now.